Step out onto your lawn tomorrow morning and look down. Somewhere in that grass, probably within a few feet of your shoe, is a small 3-leaf plant that pulls fertilizer out of the air and hands it to the grass for absolutely nothing. It stays green through August, when the turf beside it goes brown and crisp. It feeds more bees than anything else blooming in your yard. Seeding 1,000 square feet of it costs about $6. This year, Americans will spend roughly $60 billion on lawn care. A meaningful share of that goes toward removing that exact plant. So how did the one thing in your yard that works for free become the thing you pay to destroy? Welcome to nature's lost vault. 80 years ago, that question would have made no sense. Walk into a hardware store in Ohio in 1940, ask for lawn seed, and the paper bag you carried home had this plant mixed in on purpose. Seed companies printed the percentage on the label. We know this because one of the men who ended the practice wrote it down. R. Milton Carleton was a plant scientist at Vaughan Seed Company in Chicago, and he had been working with a new lawn chemistry since 1943. In 1957, he published a book about killing lawn weeds, and partway through it, he admitted something. Calling this plant a weed, he wrote, would come as a shock to old-time gardeners. He remembered when lawn mixtures were judged by the percentage of its seed they contained. The higher the number, the better the mixture. He remembered the look on the face of a homeowner whose patch was the best on the block. Then he spent the rest of the chapter explaining why they should get rid of it. The plant Carleton was describing is white clover, Trifolium repens, the low 3-leaf carpet you knelt in as a child, turning leaves over one at a time, looking for a fourth. Here is what those old seedsmen understood that the label on your fertilizer bag will never tell you. Clover is a legume, a cousin of the pea and the bean. On its roots sit small pink nodules, and inside those nodules lives a bacterium called Rhizobium. That bacterium takes nitrogen gas straight out of the atmosphere and converts it into a form a plant can use. As clover roots die back and regrow through the season, that nitrogen leaks into the soil around them. The grass growing shoulder to shoulder with the clover takes it up. Researchers at the University of Georgia put a number on it. A vigorous stand of white clover fixes between 100 and 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year. At the fertilizer prices in their bulletin, that is $60 to $90 an acre, arriving every single spring from a plant nobody is paying. That is the free fertilizer. But nitrogen was never the only reason clover was in the bag. Clover roots run deeper than the shallow mat of a bluegrass lawn. So in the third week of a July dry spell, when your cool season grass shuts down and turns the color of a paper sack, the clover is still green. The University of Minnesota Turf Program lists white clover alongside fine fescue as one of the drought-tolerant components of a low-input lawn. Then there are the bees. Dan Potter at the University of Kentucky, working with Jonathan Larson, spent the summers of 2011 and 2012 sampling the flowers in ordinary lawns to see what landed on them. Honeybees and native bumblebees were the most common visitors to white clover. The visits ran heaviest in late summer, when almost nothing else in a suburban yard is blooming. Their work was published in the Journal of Insect Conservation. Zachary Huang at Michigan State estimates that white clover accounts for 40 to 50% of all the honey produced in his state. So a plant that fertilizes the grass, holds its color in a drought, and carries the pollinators through. August was standard equipment. Then, in about 10 years, it was gone. The turning point has a date on it. In 1945, the American chemical paint company put a product called Weed 1 on the market. Its active ingredient was a compound developed under wartime secrecy, known to chemists as 2,4-D. What made it remarkable was how narrow it was. 2,4-D killed broadleaf plants and left grass standing. For the first time, a man with a hose sprayer could walk his yard on Saturday and come back the next week to grass, and only grass. America bought it immediately. Ted Steinberg, the environmental historian of the American lawn, tracked what came with it. Americans bought 139,000 lawn mowers in 1946. 5 years later, 1.2 million. By 1959, 4.2 million. New suburbs like Levittown were going up on old farm fields, each arriving with a front lawn and a strict standard for what it should look like. But there was one problem with the chemistry, and it is the entire story. Clover is a broadleaf plant. 2,4-D could not tell the difference between a dandelion and the legume that had been feeding American lawns for a century. Every homeowner who sprayed for dandelions also wiped out his clover. That left the industry with two options: admit the product had a serious flaw and cost the customer his free nitrogen source, or change the definition of what was supposed to be in a lawn. You already know which one happened. A weed is not a botanical category. It is not a family or a genus. It is a plant somebody decided does not belong. So clover moved off the seed label and onto the target list on the back of the herbicide bottle. 1 generation later, the men who remembered when it belonged had stopped buying seed. Watch what filled the gap. The nitrogen clover used to make now comes in a bag you buy every spring. The water the grass used to hold on its own now runs through sprinklers. Landscape irrigation in the United States comes to about 9 billion gallons a day, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. Christina Milesi, a researcher at NASA, mapped American turf from satellite imagery in a 2005 study in the journal Environmental Management. She found roughly 40 million acres of it, more than 63,000 square miles. Lawn is the largest irrigated crop in the country, and nobody eats any of it. 2,4-D is still with us, and the Environmental Protection Agency estimates American use at £46 million a year across more than 1,500 registered products. And the loop closes somewhere you would not expect. Purdue University's turf grass science program keeps a page on white clover, and it lists the plant as a broadleaf weed. Read further, and it explains why clover competes so well in a lawn. Because it fixes its own nitrogen. Then it gives the recommendation: apply adequate nitrogen fertilizer, and the clover will decline. That is the modern lawn economy in 3 sentences. The plant is a problem because it makes fertilizer for free, and the fix is to buy fertilizer. Which brings us to what you can do this season. Because putting clover back is easy. You want white clover seed sold as inoculated, meaning it arrives coated with the rhizobium it needs to fix nitrogen. Without that partner, the plant still grows, but your soil gets nothing out of it. A pound of white clover seed holds around 800,000 seeds, which is why the rate seems so small. Timing gives you 2 easy windows. Early spring, on ground still in its freeze and thaw cycles, is the old farmer's trick called frost seeding. The soil opens and closes each night, working the seed down with no tools. Early fall, once the summer heat has broken, is the other. Either way, take a garden rake and rough up the surface first. Clover seed has to reach soil, not sit on thatch. Scatter it by hand, mixed with a little sand so you can see where it lands. 1/4 inch is deep enough. Keep the surface damp for 2 weeks, and you will see germination in 5 to 10 days. Clover wants soil near neutral, between 6 and 7 on the pH scale, which a cheap test kit will tell you. Stop applying broadleaf herbicide and weed and feed, because those products are the exact reason it left. And raise your mower. 3.5 to 4 inches keeps the clover flowering and the grass shading its own roots. That is the whole procedure. A bag of seed, a rake, and the decision to stop paying for something the yard used to make on its own. Somewhere out there tomorrow morning, a little of it is probably still in your grass, holding on between the mowings. It is not a mistake in the lawn. It is the last surviving piece of the original design, waiting for permission. If this changed how you see the ground under your own feet, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault. There is a great deal still growing out there that we were taught to overlook, and the next vault opens soon.